Number 6, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Social Development and Employment and asks, is the Government considering extending the business assistance package for employers and employees beyond the 14-week period currently signalled? If not, why not?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the situation is changing all the time, but on the balance of things, we think we've got it about right at more than 3 months extra financial assistance. We've taken the advice of organisations such as the Employers Chamber of Commerce and Canterbury Development, so we don't intend to at this time, but we are constantly looking at it.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Will the current business assistance package be terminated after the extra 6-week period ends, given the Prime Minister's statement that, and I quote, "I think everyone acknowledges we can't go on forever," unquote?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the intention at the moment is for it to run for another 6 weeks, actually another 8 weeks, so we've got 2 weeks going to the 18th of April, and then the employment support will be quite a different criteria, so it won't include sole traders. It will have more of a business mentors are going out at the moment and talking to those businesses to see eligibility. So there's not an intention to extend it at the moment, but as I say, the situation is constantly changing.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Does she believe that in 14 weeks after the initial quake, employers and employees will be in a strong enough position to proceed without assistance, given that 6 weeks have passed since February 22nd and very little has changed except for the fact that thousands more people are now out of work and hundreds of businesses are still struggling desperately?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, we've taken a lot of advice actually from businesses on the ground, from the Chamber of Commerce, from others. They have said to us that there are businesses that obviously have already relocated, there are others that intend to do that after 14 weeks, one has to acknowledge that some of those businesses obviously won't be surviving, and we've seen that in recent weeks, and we will see more coming up. It is a matter of how long you support them to relocate and how you actually allow some others to close, because it's unfortunately inevitable.
Katrina Shanks.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister. Has the Minister received any reports about the number of businesses and people still needing the earthquake support package?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, what we are seeing is quite some changes happening. So I can report that of the 7,381 individuals who were on the job loss cover, nearly half of them, 3,500, have told us they don't need it anymore. So they've gone on those early weeks, they've now come off it, presumably because they've all found work, so they're no longer needing that job loss cover. We've also seen those sole traders, already 1/3 of them have opted in, but 2/3 have not. We're also seeing that for the employment support subsidy. So as I say, it is changing every day, and it's a matter of making the system flexible enough to acknowledge that and offering the support in the right place.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Has any government agency, given her last answer, has any government agency provided her with advice as to how many Cantabrians will end up on the unemployment benefit once the current support package ends? And if so, what is that advice? What are the numbers?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, I've heard various numbers in the last few days, but to be frank, they've all come from the opposition, and it just feels like that member is plucking numbers out of thin air, quite frankly. Plucking numbers out of thin air. So I think actually the members need to be pretty careful in where they're getting those figures from, and I think that they're actually not true.
Is this a point of order?
Point of order, sir.
Point of order has been called. Order. Order. The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
With respect, Mr Speaker, the question was specific, and it asked the Minister had she received any government agency provided her with any advice, etc., etc. She then went on to reference other reports she'd received from me and others, which I'm not a government agency, and I asked her specifically, had she received any advice from a government agency, sir?
I'm not sure that is what the member asked. I may have to apologise if I'm wrong, but I don't recollect the member asking about government agencies particularly. I thought he asked about advice. The dilemma I have is I can't be sure that the question asked will be exactly the same. But order, I'm on my feet, and the issue is being disputed. So to me, what is reasonable then is to allow the member to repeat his question, but I I will be checking the Hansard to make sure that that the member is correct on that matter, that he did ask about government agency advice. I invite him to repeat his question.
Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Repeat my question, absolutely. To the Minister, has any government agency provided her with advice as to how many Cantabrians will end up on the unemployment benefit once the current support package ends? If so, what is that advice? What are the numbers?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, no, I have not had advice on how many will end up on the unemployment benefit. We've certainly had advice on how many employers we think may not be able to relocate. We're certainly seeking advice on where we're moving that skills training, but actually it's not a matter of concentrating how many are going on the unemployment benefit. It's about supporting those business and those employees and those people that most need it.
The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
To the Minister, given that she is the Minister of Social Development, can she tell the House why she has not proactively sought advice from her government agency or any other as to how many people will end up on the unemployment benefit once the business support package ends, given that the impact of the termination will create a major problem for earthquake victims and business owners desperately trying to survive? Why is it that she hasn't asked her agency to even do some projections or do her job?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Speaker, our concentration has very much been on supporting those businesses and those employees that need us most. The member may not understand actually the social security system, so that support is there for however many need it. So whether that is 1,000, whether it is a few thousand, the reality is, well, if that member stopped picking numbers out of thin air and actually looked at what needed to be done, which is supporting those employees that need us most. The system is there for those that need it, for however many do.
Question number 7, Jackie Dean. Order, we've dealt with that question. Jackie Dean.
Thank you.